That was a slick move, man. Very slick.
That ain't
move.
mine, man.
Go ahead and put your hands
No,
on
hell no, that ain't mine.
An officer's arrests come into question.
At this point, you are detained, okay?
I don't do anything.
Okay.
I don't mess with that stuff.
He essentially was employing like magic tricks to hide evidence.
We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. What we got there, my friend? Look at there.
But proving a crime was committed by a member of law enforcement is not an easy task.
We don't actually ever see him planting their narcotics. That raises some red flags to me.
He gave me a piece of advice. Sometimes the people you think you can trust are the very ones you shouldn't. That has stuck with me as the most chilling thing he said.
Hey there, everybody, I'm Jesse Weber, and welcome to Prime Crime. This is where we break down some of the most compelling and memorable true crime cases. Law enforcement are supposed to be the good guys, and many times, if not most of the time, they are. However, there is something very odd that happens in one Florida county, and a spotlight is put on an officer who may not actually be arresting people for crimes, but committing them himself.
Look, man, you seem like you're pretty squared away, okay?
Yeah.
All right. But I do have an issue with something within the vehicle.
What's that?
It's April 8th, 2018 in Jackson County, Florida. What should have been a typical day for a motorist suddenly becomes a life-changing encounter with Sheriff's Deputy Zachary Wester.
The day I got stopped, I was actually on my way to work. I was coming through a small town. There was a police officer sitting underneath the overpass, and when he pulled in behind me, I still really didn't think anything of it until the lights came on. And that was when I was like, this is really weird.
Pulled you over. Your driver's license is not valid. Okay. Pulled you out to talk to you about it.
He said that my license had been suspended, and he realized that when he ran my plate. I was like, that's strange because you were facing me under the overpass, and you followed me for 3 miles before you flicked the lights on. So the red flags were already going up.
You made the spontaneous statement about there was a handgun in the center console. You said it was okay for me to go retrieve that handgun from the center console.
Yes. He asked if there was anything in the vehicle that I thought he should be concerned about, and I was honest with him. I told him I've got a handgun in the center console, and he asked me if I had a concealed weapons permit. I said, no, you don't need one in Florida.
At that point, he had probable cause to pull that car over. Keep in mind, a lot of times, the reason I pull you over does lead into further investigation based on what I see or maybe information that I gathered during that traffic stop.
All right. I'm going to read you your rights. Just because I read your rights does not mean you're going to jail. Okay. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you in court.
I knew I didn't have anything to hide. That's why I let him search my vehicle. I trusted the process. Well, those feelings changed a little bit when he read me the Miranda rights.
Opened up the center console, shoved down in between the front passenger seat and where the center console is at, I saw what appeared to be a syringe sticking out. Whenever I went, I looked further, pulled the seat apart. The syringe is actually in like a plastic, larger baggie with a plastic container with a substance in it that appears to be an illegal narcotic. Do you know anything about that?
I do not. I was shocked. I had no idea what the heck he was talking about because I'm not a meth user. I don't do drugs. I've never smoked pot. I've physically never done drugs in my life. It blew my mind that he was in here questioning me about this.
You've never seen this before?
Dude, I have no idea. It's just wild. I was so surprised that it was methamphetamines of all things. It wasn't weed. It wasn't like a crack pipe. It was methamphetamines. It was a used needle.
No track marks.
Dude, I don't use. I mean, you see where we're at.
Yeah, man, you gotta check. Like
We're standing here. This definitely has the appearance of illegal activity. And you're swearing you know nothing about it.
It just puts me in a bad spot, man.
You know, I thought there had to be an explanation. Maybe somebody left it in my car. I don't know. I have employees. Maybe that's a possibility. But I know the people I hire. We do background checks. I simply don't have addicts working for me.
I'm not saying you're a bad person, okay?
Yeah.
You don't appear to be a user, okay? And if you are a user, you've not been using it long, or you understand where I'm coming from, right?
Dude, I'm gonna be honest with you. I go to work, I come home,
Okay.
I sleep, I go back to work.
Okay.
I don't hang out, party, I don't.
The state entrusts me to be a fact finder, right? Try to put all the pieces to the puzzle together.
If I had $1 for every time someone told me these aren't my pants, though you have them on, and we find the drugs in them, I'd be a very wealthy man. There's that initial denial phase.
I just want you to understand where I'm coming from, man. When it's a felony, I have no discretion in the state of Florida for that, okay? I can't just throw that in the ditch out here and act like it never happened.
Yeah.
So you're gonna go to jail today for possession of methamphetamine, for possession of drug paraphernalia.
He took me to jail. My dad worked at the federal prison there, and I grew up around his lieutenant. My mom made the phone call to him, and she said, hey, something's wrong. Joshua just got arrested for methamphetamines possession. He went in and he signed a paper for conditional release. And he even questioned me. He grilled me pretty hard. Is there something I don't know? Are you making me look like an idiot? And I was honest with him and said no. I was treated like a criminal through the whole thing. It was the worst 2 years of my life.
Joshua Manuel is adamant he's innocent. Is he telling the truth? Is something else going on here? Little did he know at the time, he would not be the only person claiming the same thing after being pulled over by Deputy Wester.
I've got to test this. Have you ever seen this before?
No.
Okay.
No, what is that?
It did field test presumptive positive for methamphetamine. Okay? Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
If I read you your rights, will you talk to me?
I talked to you, man.
Okay.
I'm just saying, man, I ain't just... Dude, I'm...
We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there, okay?
These drug crimes are serious. These were possession charges of methamphetamine, which can carry years in jail. If people have other prior offenses, the penalty can be even more extreme.
You're going to jail, you are being legally detained this time, okay?
Yeah, the bag of that.
No, I ain't no.
Both y'all are going to jail, okay, for possession of methamphetamine. Y'all are both in constructive possession of it.
There's also collateral consequences. People lose their job, lose their standing in the community, custody of their children, trust of their loved ones. People who have taken a different path in life and have become sober, now people believe that they've been lying.
You didn't have any weapons or anything you was trying to hide back there?
No. This is okay. To see me, man.
I can get invasive. I'm gonna send you on y'all's way here in just a minute if you didn't have anything. That was a slick move, man. Very slick
That ain't
move.
mine, man.
Go ahead and put your hands
No,
on
hell no, that ain't mine.
Do not
Oh,
do
that
this.
ain't mine.
Okay.
Alright. That ain't mine, man. What you trying
See that dot? Don't just...
What are you doing, man?
At first glance, these stops appear to be somewhat routine and by the book.
During my career, I saw drugs hidden in numerous places. A seasoned officer is going to do their due diligence to search every inch of that vehicle. Many times people who are drug users, if they get stopped and they have the drugs, they're in that panic mode. So they're just gonna slide it between the seats. They're gonna try to hide it really quick. So it doesn't surprise me that some of this illegal drugs were found like in a crack of a seat. That doesn't really raise any suspicions to me.
Hey, what'd you find?
Huh?
What'd you find? Where? In that?
In that flashlight.
Shut up.
Whenever I opened it up, there were some crystals on top. And I was like,
When I walked up, it was shoved in between this back seat right here and this back. She was making a lot of movements, just saying that her knees were hurting.
Imagine that.
But is everything really as it appears to be? Upon a closer review, there's something off with Wester's arrests.
There was troubling behavior that the officer exhibited, such as going back and forth between his vehicle and the recovery vehicle. Every time that this contraband was recovered, there was it appeared intentional deflection of the body cam to not be looking in the direction of the recovered item. And so it looked that all of a sudden, this contraband were found within this vehicle in places where if they were there originally, they, number one, could not have been seen by the naked eye of the officer, or number two, would have been known to have existed by other vehicle occupants.
You that white piece of vinyl right there?
Yeah.
It was shifted further over this way. Whenever I first made contact, you could see his shoulder raising. It was actually visibly moving up that piece of vinyl. When I walked up here and made contact with her, I said, man, what you doing under that vinyl? He didn't know Trevor was standing right there. He was just digging under that baseball glove. And then searched that immediate area for weapons. And lifted up the baseball glove and there was the bag in the straw. You going to jail, buddy?
Going to jail. I didn't do anything. Why am I going to jail?
Have we locked these yet? Look, man, you're going to go to jail today for possession of methamphetamine, okay? It was in your vehicle right there at the center console.
Come on, man. Please.
I don't have much discretion with a felony charge, buddy. I don't have much discretion with that, man.
Man, dude, man, my mom was going to work. Oh, man, dude, I'm serious, dude. Anything. What you want me to do, man?
Between 2016 and 2018, Jackson County, Florida Sheriff's Deputy Zachary Wester is making arrests for drug possession.
I moved the driver's seat forward. That little black container you saw me pull out, it had a crystallized substance in it. Whenever I tested that, it did return a presumptive positive for methamphetamine here in the field.
That's hers.
You are going to jail tonight for possession of methamphetamine and possession of drug paraphernalia.
But something is strange in Wester's arrests.
The problem in Zachary Wester's case is we have a repeated pattern of Zachary Wester either turning off his camera, not turning it on, videos being deleted. That raises red flags to anybody.
Is it possible that Wester could be planting drugs on innocent people?
He found it in the driver's side compartment and he watched the split seats.
So, when you watch these body cam footages, most of these searches are only being conducted by Zachary Wester. There's not a second person in the car helping him. So he's in there by himself while the second officer or the backup officer is watching the suspect. So that does give Zachary Wester ample opportunity and time to plant those drugs.
If this tests what I think it's going to test for, it's going to put me even more of a bad spot because it's a felony.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about here too.
It did test presumptive positive in the field for methamphetamine.
The how he planted it in my car is still a question that literally keeps me up at night. I still can't figure it out. I know what happened, I just don't know how.
How quickly can you get there? Because I'm being arrested for possession of narcotics. I don't want to talk about it right now.
The only explanation I've been able to come up with is he went to the back of his car, he put the bag with the syringe in his glove, carried the gloves to the car, dumped it in the passenger seat, then put the gloves on, and quote unquote started his search. Jackson County police officers, they wore short sleeves. They weren't long sleeves. He couldn't have tucked it in his shirt. He didn't like reach down on his boot or anything like that. I think he just carried it in his glove from the back of his patrol car into mine.
Let's take a closer look at these stops to see if Wester is the one breaking the law.
You know what that is?
No, sir.
You don't know what that maybe appears to be?
Maybe meth or cocaine.
Okay.
I've never seen that in my life.
And the straw has some residue in it, okay?
Most people will make denials, and that's why the law is pretty clear when you try to refute the existence of probable cause. A suspect's denials are not sufficient to refute probable cause.
Oh, right. Both of y'all are just going to be detained at this time, okay? I can undetain you, I just can't unarrest you.
What the hell?
But there is a consistent look of surprise on these people's faces. You can tell when people feign surprise. You can tell when it's an, aw shucks, you found my stuff. This was a little bit different.
Check fingerprints on that bottle.
Yeah, we will, man.
Nah, do not do drugs.
It was a level of indignation, shock.
At this point, you are detained, okay? All right? When I was searching the vehicle on the side that you were seated in like a brown tie-up bag, that white little Excedrin bottle, okay? Bottom corner, with the way it was positioned, I opened it up, there is a crystallized substance in the bottom of it. It did return a presumptive positive for methamphetamine here on the side of the road. So my question is...
I don't do anything. I don't mess with that stuff.
Part of the other problem is that this officer was trying to convince them that maybe somebody else left something in their vehicle to explain away why they genuinely might not know that there was contraband in their vehicle. And so that is able to create some plausible deniability for him that maybe it wasn't him that put it there.
You gotta be careful who you let in your vehicle. Okay, if that is not yours.
It's company policy though, man. I don't know what I'm gonna do about that. Like, I have to have an employee with me come to the bank for the deposit every single morning.
Wester's demeanor on the side of the road was probably the worst part, not because he was mean, but because he was so nice.
This is unfortunate for you today, okay?
Yeah, believe me.
This is gonna be a fork in the road, man. You can go left or right, right?
The buddy-buddy demeanor, then, oh no, you're going to jail. It was a lot of the same MO over and over and over again. He was playing a game, which is sick.
But catching Wester in the act is not so simple.
That black container, it was right here.
I combed through these videos and you do not directly see him planting evidence. You see what could be argued to be an inadvertent aversion of body camera at the critical moment that stuff is recovered. He essentially was employing like magic tricks to hide evidence.
If I was driving that vehicle right there, okay, and if my corporal pulled me over and searched the vehicle, and if he found that, what would happen?
Probably wouldn't be working here.
I wouldn't be working here, I'd lose my certification, I'd go to jail. Whenever you get behind the wheel of that vehicle, dude, you are in possession of everything in this vehicle, okay?
Out in Jackson County, Florida, between 2016 and 2018, Sheriff's Deputy Zachary Wester is arresting various people after supposedly finding narcotics in the cars they were driving.
If I would have never lifted the center console, I would not have seen that orange part sticking up. It was right between the console and the front passenger seat, man.
Not only do these motorists claim the drugs don't belong to them,
you were in constructive possession of methamphetamine, okay? So you are going to jail today for possession of methamphetamine because it was on your side of the vehicle. What I'm going to do, though, since that young little boy's looking back, I'm not going to put you in handcuffs, okay?
But between inconsistencies in his reporting, the body cam turning off at key moments, and the locations of where the drugs are found, something's not right, and someone starts taking notice.
There was a whistleblower in this case named Christina Pumphrey. She worked for the state attorney's office at the time. There were a lot of things with this case that just didn't sit right with her. So she started doing her own investigating.
We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. Is that seat slide? Man, I'm in the Christmas spirit. What we got there, my friend? Look at there.
They actually start picking up on some discrepancies from his reports to what's actually shown on the body-worn camera. And this right here is the crucial moment. We need to look into this a little bit further. We've got to notify the supervision to start running an investigation into Wester. At that point, they start pulling all these traffic stops.
However, there's a big problem.
So this ain't yours in the door right here? You are going to be detained now, okay, because it was in the door. Okay, I'm just detaining you. Just put your hands behind your back for me.
On his body cam footage, we don't actually ever see him planting their narcotics. That raises some red flags to me. Did he actually find the drugs, or were they actually planted? I don't know.
He had mastered what he was doing. He knew when to turn his body camera off. He knew when to keep it on. He knew when to find whatever he was going to find. The fact that he was so comfortable doing it, he was so good at only showing what he wanted to show until it came to the Teresa Odom video. That's when he really slipped up.
Deputy Westwood, Jackson County Sheriff's Office, reason for my stop is your brake lights.
Yes, sir.
They work 1 minute and the next minute they don't work. You got your driver's license on you, ma'am?
I just got tickets the other day. I'll be glad to show
Oh,
them
did
to
you? No, you're fine. Would you consent to a search of your vehicle? You're fine with that? Okay.
You know, we saw in the Teresa Odom case where there was a frame-by-frame shot of his body camera, and we saw that there was a clear baggie in Wester's hand during the stop.
Oh, Ronnie.
You can physically see a packet with a white powder in his hand before he puts his glove on, which he later finds that same packet in Teresa Odom's truck.
It is yogurt, sir.
I know. Okay.
It's yogurt.
How about this, though?
That is not mine. No, sir.
Okay. I'm not going to ask you any
No,
direct, hold
sir.
on. I'm not going to ask you any direct questions. I'm going to read you your rights first, okay?
And that's what blew the case wide open in reality. What you see in his hand before he ever searches the truck. That's what really, really got him in trouble.
Authorities discover a stash of drugs and paraphernalia hidden in the trunk of Wester's patrol car. After an investigation by the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, it's suspected that Zachary Wester planted narcotics in dozens of traffic stops. In 2019, Wester is arrested, and he's ultimately charged with 67 crimes with respect to 12 victims: racketeering, official misconduct, fabricating evidence, false imprisonment, perjury, and possession of controlled substances and drug paraphernalia.
The first thing that I thought was, this deputy wants to get involved in some type of narcotics unit. So he's trying to pad his numbers. What we kept seeing during these traffic stops was it seemed to always be methamphetamine. Nothing really surprises me there. You know, we still have a methamphetamine problem across the United States. A proactive law enforcement officer, you stumble upon drugs on a frequent basis. He's trying to show that he goes out here, he makes big cases. I worked in a unit that focused on street level narcotics, and it's hard to get into these units.
He gave me a piece of advice. Sometimes the people you think you can trust are the very ones you shouldn't. That has stuck with me as the most chilling thing he said. Yeah, I probably shouldn't have trusted the police officer standing in front of me. And how awful is that to have to say? When you think of all the other people before me and after me who he played the same game with, and he won those. He had no fear in what he was doing. To have that kind of power and use it that way, it's disgusting.
Zachary Wester may have been arrested, but he is presumed innocent. The more challenging issue now is, can prosecutors prove Zachary Wester is guilty?
I've been singing it.
We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas.
And I like to hum a tune in case something ever goes in front of the jury, you know? So they're not just sitting somewhere, so it's like elevator music. So they're not just sitting somewhere chilling, hanging out.
In May 2021, a Florida trial began that was quite startling to see. A former police officer named Zachary Wester was facing 67 criminal charges in connection with planting drugs on unsuspecting and innocent motorists.
This is a case about an abuse of an incredible power. The defendant used his position as a deputy sheriff to make traffic stops on 12 members of this community and plant methamphetamine in their cars, methamphetamine and paraphernalia. He turned what should be a law enforcement agency, and is, into something for his own use that was criminal.
The strongest evidence was what was examined under a closer professional eye. We have a very similar MO, a policy, a practice that this individual employed, the recovery of the same type of substance, not within direct view of body cam, movements that could not be accounted for, divergent paperwork, unexplained discrepancies in tests and field testing.
Josh Emanuel voluntarily told the defendant that he had a gun in his car before the defendant had any reason to search it. Now, why would he do that if methamphetamine was really in his car? Why would Mr. Bowling give the defendant his corrections ID, letting this deputy know right away that he's got a criminal history? Why would he do that if there was methamphetamine in the car?
Man, if I know that was in there, you think I'd tell you go ahead and search, man? Come on, man, really?
People still do sometimes.
Why would they consent to a search of the car? There's no reason to. They consented to the search because they didn't have anything to hide.
And the prosecution honed in on arguably their strongest piece of evidence.
Why in the world does the defendant have palmed in his hand, which is clasped like this, not like this, not like this, like this, a plastic baggie? Why in the world does he have that there? I would submit that this is objective evidence where you see him planting drugs in the moment. You see something in his hand that has no reason, no logical reason, given this stop and what we know about it, for it to be there. This is him planting evidence, and you see it.
People were saying you could see the baggie. I could not see it. I think the hardest part for a prosecutor here is, number one, there's no smoking gun. And number two, there's a really flimsy motive for the regular person. You have to understand why someone with so much to lose would risk.
Mr. Wester went one by one through each and every stop and arrest. Many other officers, all nothing unusual, no red flags with anything Mr. Wester did. Many of those same officers were not surprised at all that those suspects denied ownership of the drugs and the paraphernalia that Mr. Wester found in their cars. There is no direct evidence of Mr. Wester doing anything wrong. Not one person said they saw him doing anything unusual.
Not actually seeing him plant the drugs, that may come off as, that was just a bad angle of the camera. But again, juries do want to actually see that. Jurors want to see physical evidence.
Many of them entered pleas. Nobody challenged anything in a courtroom, and nobody filed any complaints with the sheriff's office.
Here's the other harder part, the victims. Some of them pleaded guilty. And what that means is, if you plead guilty, you can't later say that you didn't do it. The people who admitted that the drugs were theirs, in the eye of the law, the drugs were theirs.
Most of the people that got up there and testified also said, yeah, I'm suing. And at least one of them said, yes, a conviction here would definitely help my civil case. So is there an interest? Yes. And what is that? Money.
Some of these people on traffic stops entered a guilty plea because they felt like, who's going to believe my word over a deputy sheriff's word? That's a legitimate concern. So you've got a public defender or your attorney that's saying, hey, look, if you just plead to this, you're going to get no prison time. The pressure's on you just to say, I want this to go away.
And the jury got to hear from those alleged victims themselves.
The white small plastic baggie that was in that spoon that the deputy just showed you on this video. Had you ever seen that before?
No, sir.
Was that in your car?
No, sir.
He said that he smelled marijuana emitting from the vehicle.
Had you been smoking marijuana in the vehicle?
No, sir, absolutely not.
What about Miss Smith?
Absolutely not. She was 3 months pregnant.
How long was it between you packing Reginald's lunch and this defendant pulling you over and saying he found meth in it?
Less than 5 minutes.
Was there any meth in that lunchbox?
No, sir.
Did you put any meth in it?
No, sir. He told Reginald to put his hands behind his back, and he told me to go over towards the tree.
At some point, did you try to film this on your phone?
Yes, sir.
What happened?
He was acting weird. He told me that I would be arrested if I did not put my phone down.
Testifying against Wester was scary just for the fact that you're testifying against a law enforcement officer.
The only thing I really saw was the fact that he kept going back into the car like several times over and over and over again. Because he'd come back, he'd talk to me, he'd go back to the car, he'd come back to me, he'd go back to the car.
This is someone the state has put in place to protect and serve. They're entrusted with the public safety. They're entrusted to do the right thing, and they took an oath to do so. So when you're sitting in a courtroom saying, that's a dirty cop, it doesn't look good.
He said he found a syringe in a baggie that looked like it had been used. He said it was stuffed down in between the passenger seat and the center console.
Would you have seen it if something was there?
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Was there anything like that there?
No.
Everybody says they're innocent. Everybody said it wasn't mine. Everybody says they have nothing to do with it. So going into that, you're thinking, how many other people have been in my spot testifying against an officer? Typically that doesn't go very well.
You never saw him with a needle or bag or anything in his hands until after he came out of your car? No, he was pretty far in there when he was reaching for the gun. Did you see him reaching in his pockets or anything? No. Okay. And he's wearing short sleeves, so he didn't have anything up his sleeves either, did he?
But I knew I had to do it. I had a clean record. I was the quote-unquote key witness in this case because of my clean record. So me testifying was a big deal for the state.
Then it was time for Zachary Wester to take the stand.
Did you plant this substance in Mr. Williams' lunchbox?
I did not.
The report that you wrote in that case, did you falsify anything in this report?
Nothing, no sir.
With Miss Wood, Was there anything with her that you planted so that you could arrest her?
No.
Was there anything in your report that wasn't true about Miss Wood?
No.
The marijuana shake and the methamphetamine that you found in the vehicle, did you plant that there?
I did not, no.
This case is tough because you're dealing with a professional witness. Cops, part of their job is they testify. Police officers are trained to be great witnesses.
The allegation is you found 6, but only entered 5 into evidence.
And that would be correct.
Okay. Tell us why.
It was determined that one that was unused could have very well been for his diabetes that he just stated that he uses syringes for. So I didn't determine that one to be of evidentiary value, and it was just simply disposed of.
Did you take that other needle and hide it in your car to plant in somebody else's car later?
No, I did not.
There are certain strategies and techniques when people testify that become learned and practiced over time. Not getting overly emotional, answering only what is asked, responding in a way that is non-confrontational, non-argumentative.
In all of these cases that we've talked about, you did not plant any evidence.
That never crossed my mind, no.
These were legitimate stops, searches, and you found illegal narcotics.
Yes, sir.
By and large, he was really good on the stand.
Methamphetamine is quite prevalent here in Jackson County, correct?
Methamphetamine is very prevalent in Jackson County. I've seen firsthand the destruction that methamphetamine has on families, has on friends, and in my job as a deputy sheriff, I wanted to be as proactive as I could. I didn't feel that the citizens of Jackson County wanted to pay me to just sit somewhere and wait for a call.
Wester even tried to explain away the arguably incriminating evidence from the Odom stop.
In the void space, there was a baggie of some sort. I didn't know at the time if it was of evidentiary value or not. It didn't appear as if it had narcotics in it. It didn't appear as if it had anything that may have been of value, but nonetheless, I wanted to try to preserve it, so I grabbed it. And whenever I entered the vehicle, it was in my left hand, but I wanted to be able to still use my fingers. Before I put my gloves on, I moved my hand and I placed that item in the driver's side floorboard, and I continued my search.
The state was showing these still photos. There's something in your hand.
Sure.
There is something in your hand.
Absolutely.
Was it that bag of methamphetamine that's sitting there on that spoon right now?
It was not, no.
It was obvious to me that Wester had been coached a lot for his testimony. That's not uncommon. Wester had done his homework and really prepped for the questions that were probably going to be asked by the state prosecution.
Where on your body camera video do we see you handle that baggie and either picking it up or putting it down or looking at it closely to determine what's in it?
Whenever I put that baggie in the front driver's side floorboard, I never seen it again. I'm not sure if it's because when a semi came through, it blew it into the roadway. There was really no need for me to go walk across 231 at the busiest time of the day to try to find something that I didn't even know was evidentiary value or not.
Why'd you set it down on the floorboard if you didn't know if it had evidentiary value or not?
So that I could search the vehicle.
How about searching what's in your hand? How about that?
I didn't expect him to actually get on the stand. He kept move his nose. He was very twitchy and nervous the whole time. He lost his cool on the stand several times with the state attorney.
Your theory was that because mom had been in the car at some point and mom had been a meth user years before, that even if they were in accidental possession, that you went ahead and arrested them.
I did, and here's the thing. Most of the time, they deny knowledge. So Mr. Williams, you're presenting to this jury that in the First Circuit where you work, that if someone says that they didn't know about the narcotics, you're just gonna drop the case on every single narcotics charge that comes on your desk?
Sir, you know that's not what I'm saying.
It sounds to me that's what you're saying.
Okay, well, thank you for your input. I'll remind you, as you're aware, that I asked the questions, you answer them.
Sure.
I just really believe that he came across a little cocky, a little arrogant, versus, hey, I'm truly innocent here.
The goal of the body camera is to allow someone else, in this very court system perhaps, to see what you or any other deputy would see while they had that body camera on. Isn't that right?
Body cameras are very beneficial, yes.
Not for Reginald Williams. We don't have one, right? So why don't we have one for him?
If the body camera video for Mr. Reginald Williams would not have been deleted from the server, this jury would have had a chance to review that body camera.
Who deleted it?
Mr. Williams, I don't know.
If someone deleted it, did they delete the front part of the manual video? Did they go in and delete that as well?
Mr. Williams, I've already testified as to the first part of that Emmanuel video, and I made it very clear that the body camera experienced a malfunction.
And it so happened that that missed the part where you would have first gotten into the car and had a chance to see the syringe in the baggie. Is that right?
I would disagree with that.
That's not when the error occurred?
I would disagree with that.
Then why isn't it on the video?
Mr. Williams, I've explained this to you 3 or 4 times now as far as why that is not on the video.
Is there some reason you will not answer that to the jury?
The body camera error occurred as soon as the traffic stop was initiated.
The defense's case was actually pretty solid, and it's not really due to the defense attorney. It was Wester's covering of his actions. He had an explanation for everything. He had cut his body cam on and off at certain times perfectly and explained it away as a malfunction. And they questioned people involved in IT in that department. Is this a possibility? Well, yeah, it's a possibility. It's a body cam.
Now, you've testified that you saw Kimberly Hazelwood reach down and put that Excedrin bottle in that trash bag. Is that right?
Yes.
Where's that on the video?
The body camera doesn't pick it up, okay? But whenever you look through the back window, you will be surprised at how a body camera, how it darkens things. And you have to remember, a body camera sees a narrow field of view. It sees what it wants to see. So I was able to see that with my eyes through that back glass.
That was tough to sit in the courtroom and say, I don't know how he did it, but I know he did. And I hope there's enough evidence to prove it. The packet being in his hand before he put his glove on. The fact that he didn't have him finding anything on camera. It was just there. So the jury really had to go by their belief in whether or not he was a dirty cop.
And to the jury this case went. Would they believe Zachary Wester was upholding the law or breaking the law? After deliberating more than 7 hours over the course of 2 days, this was the jury's decision.
We, the jury, find as follows as to the counts charged in the information. Count 1, guilty of racketeering as charged. Count 2, not guilty. Count 3, not guilty. Count 4, not guilty. Count 7, guilty of official misconduct related to Teresa Odom as charged.
In a split decision, the jurors found Zachary Wester guilty of 19 charges, including racketeering, official misconduct, false imprisonment, and possession, but not guilty on 48 other charges.
So I think they came back with the right verdict, convicting him on the charges that they had the strongest evidence on.
There were so many more not guilties called out than there were guilty verdicts. And that was rough to hear as someone who went through it. He's getting off on all of these cases. But in the end, after all was said and done, he was found guilty on charges relating to 3 of the people involved. Myself, Stephen Van, and Teresa Odom. In that moment, you're like, someone realized that this wasn't right, and you start thinking that maybe he'll get the time he deserves.
As to count 1, racketeering, which is a first-degree felony, you are sentenced to serve 5 years in the Florida Department of Corrections. As to count 7, official misconduct, 18 months. As to count 31, fabricating evidence, 1 year and 1 day. As to count 64, that's false imprisonment, you were sentenced to serve 1 year and 1 day. Therefore, it is the intention of the court that you were sentenced to serve a total of 12 years, 6 months, and 8 days in the Florida Department of Corrections.
There's no one that dislikes a dirty cop more than I do. It's wrong, it taints the agency, it taints the badge. Actions and behavior like this in law enforcement will not be tolerated, and you will be held accountable for your actions.
People lost kids, grandkids, their right to work, no questions asked. I mean, I still have my fair share of side effects from it. To this day, if I see police lights, my heart drops and I have a panic attack on the road. There's a bad apple in every profession, but when you run into a bad cop, that can change your life. And it can be for the good, it can be for the worst, and this time, for a lot of people, it was for the worst.
For a moment, just think about the impact that Zachary Wester had here. So in total, prosecutors dropped charges in 119 cases involving Wester. Over 30 of the people that he arrested agreed to a nearly $1 million federal court settlement. His career, reputation, ruined. He's locked up behind bars for years. And you have all of these people who are going to go through life knowing that they were falsely arrested by someone who was entrusted to uphold the law. And all of this for what? That question of why he did it, it is still not clear. And honestly, I'll tell you what, it may never be clear. That's all we have for you here on this episode of Prime Crime, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to see you next time. And as always, stay safe.